Thank you, Speaker. My question to the Premier. Last week, the Auditor General revealed that the Ford government has no plan to deal with the climate crisis and will not even come close to meeting Ontario's greenhouse gas reduction goals. The Environment Minister hesitated to even use the word, quote, plan to describe what the government's been doing. But the Premier, against all of this evidence, insisted Friday that all was well and the government was on track. It's important for the Premier to provide an answer because it's his credibility that's on the line. Why would anyone believe him over the Auditor General?
The question is addressed to the Premier.
House Leader.
Referred to the Government House Leader.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the question. The Auditor General, of course, we appreciate the work that the Auditor General did on this file, Mr. Speaker. What she did say is that we are progressing to reduce GHG emissions. We're very happy about that, Mr. Speaker. But at the same time, she highlighted a number of things that had to change as we continue to make sure that we meet those targets. Listen, the Premier has been very clear to our caucus and to this cabinet that this is a very high priority for him. He intends that this government will meet those reduction targets, Mr. Speaker, and we will.
A supplementary question.
Well, thank you, Speaker. I thought the Premier would speak for himself, but we'll see if he will on the second try. On Friday, the Premier also stated, quote, "We have a 10-year plan, and I don't know how many people can criticize it until we get to 2030. Is the Premier saying that the people of Ontario have to wait a decade before they're allowed to point out that this government has no plan to deal with the climate crisis?
Question's been referred to the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, obviously the government, one of the very first things that we did was set to work on meeting those targets. We've brought forward a Made in Ontario environmental plan. I think it's a very aggressive plan in order to meet those targets, but as the Auditor General said, and as the Minister has already said, this is a living, breathing document that changes. That will constantly change. As circumstances change, the plan will need to be updated. At the same time, we're looking to all members of the House to contribute to this plan. We know that the NDP have yet to put forward any solutions whatsoever. We will work with the Independent Greens and the Liberals in order to make this plan better, and I would encourage the opposition NDP to participate in this. Ontario has a great track record for many decades of being environmental leaders, Mr. Speaker, and this government will continue on that legacy.
The final supplementary.
Thank you, Speaker. Again, I'm surprised the Premier won't speak to this. I'll try him one more time. The government claims new renewable energy projects will help them reach their greenhouse gas reduction goals. But the auditor notes the Premier is currently spending hundreds of millions of dollars to ensure those renewable energy projects are never built, the ones he's counting on in his plan. Did the Premier not understand that those projects were supposed to help him reach the target, or did he simply not care?
Again, the Government House Leader reply.
Again, Mr. Speaker, we know that renewables are very important. They're an important mix in us meeting not only our energy goals, but in our environmental goals. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, it was the opposition, it was this member, in fact, who put forward a plan that has cost Ontario taxpayers $44 billion a year for high energy contracts that we simply cannot afford. Going forward, we're going to continue to work with all parties. We're going to continue to make sure that Ontario has the greenest electricity sector in North America. We do, and it's built on the backs of our nuclear workers, Mr. Speaker. Those reactors which have given us a constant stream of clean, reliable, cheap energy for many, many decades. We should all be very proud of that. I know that I am, Mr. Speaker, but I still wait for the member opposite and the Leader of the Opposition to stand in her place and help us, give us an idea of what it is they want to do to help us meet our GHG emissions by 2030. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.